Hi everyone, Jill from the North Woods. How you doing? I hope you're all doing really well. So, I don't know. I really got to get a count on the week, but we're like at week 81 or 82 or something like that. And just to recap where we're at is 2 weeks ago, I decided that I'm going to try to stabilize my weight and not gain weight and see if we can stay here for a little while. And that means that I'm also increasing my calories by 50 calories a week. And now I am up to 1450, which is, I think, where I want to stay. I am up a total of 0.8 pounds since 2 weeks ago when I started to do that. Not terribly surprising. I am eating more real food. And like I said, I upped my calories from probably somewhere, let's call it more like 1,000 on shot day and 1,200, away from the shot. And now we're up to 1,450 a week. I think to just get a normalized level. So if weight continues to go up, I'll shrink down a little bit in calories and get this back under control. But my overall bet is that I will be able to exercise more because now I feel better. So part of the problem, if you haven't watched the old shows, is that I was feeling tired all the time, exhausted. If I went out for a walk with my friend, bird watching, hiking, that kind of thing, I'd go and sleep for a couple of hours. I was just exhausted all the time. That is no longer the case. I am awake and feeling good all the time and actually getting things done in my life. So that's kind of good news. I have a friend who's trying to help me get my treadmill upstairs into a different room. And she goes, are you ready to do that yet? And I said, dude, I just started feeling better like 3 days ago. I need a little bit of time. Starting to get back and, just into the swing of things again. And like I said, I think now that I'm able to exercise, I will be able to burn more calories. And I think that the weight will stay where it's at. But so far, so good. We're doing okay. And like I said, eating more and not just more. I don't know. I'm kind of torn on the whole situation. Is that a lot of people will eat a lot of like protein drinks and protein powders. And I don't know, I just spent years getting myself to where I just eat real food all the time, real food, you'd recognize it on a farm. And I don't know that I want to, eat artificial foods. It just feels like I, got away from that. And now I just don't know about getting back into it. And so I'm trying to eat sort of, like I said, not right off the farm food, but you would recognize everything I eat from a farm. It is chicken, it is a vegetable, it is popcorn, it is, whatever all those foods are, you would recognize it. And I started out by drinking protein drinks every morning for breakfast, and that added everything I needed. So maybe I'll do one protein drink a day because that just seems to solve a lot of problems in general with getting enough protein and enough fiber. So, like I said, the weight is, for the most part, staying off. I'm not terribly surprised. There's still some weird effects, as even though I've gone down, like I said, I feel better now. I feel no side effects when I take the shots at all. And that's good news because I was just dragged out all the time. So we're on the right track, I think, and we will give it some time. The other thing that I did this week is I went and got a Dexa scan, and I got a Dexa scan about 6-7 months ago, and I was curious if because I have been so dragged out and so lacking in energy, I am not moving around like I used to. And so I was worried that I lost muscle mass. And the Dexa Fit people, which is a national organization, they had a sale like on Cyber Monday. And so everything was about 50% off. And so I got myself 2 scans. I got myself a Dexa scan and then something that is called a kinetic scan, which we'll talk about here in just a moment. And if we recall so far in this whole GLP-1 process, I've lost about let's just call it 77 pounds. Like I said, I wanted to get to 80. It's just so close to being 80, but it's not there yet. And gained 12 pounds of muscle mass from that period of time, which is amazing because if any of you have been on a big hardcore diet before, you can, the worst diets, you lose 50% muscle, 50% fat. when you're doing really well, it tends to be 75% fat and 25% muscle. And I put on muscle. And that, it's a good benchmark, but it also means that I was used to be, before I started weightlifting and everything, in terrible shape. So just the fact that I put on so much muscle is more of an indicator that I had no muscle mass before, and then I started putting muscle mass on, and it's good. It's all good news. And so the Dexa scan, I just went back in and I had a brand new one just to see where we were at. And I was worried that this time I was actually going to oh, thank you. I appreciate you being there, by the way. It's good to see you again. It's been a while since we said hi. Thanks for coming. So I was worried I had lost a lot of muscle in this particular period of time. And just because I hadn't been moving the way I had been previously. I was just so tired all the time. And so the two scans, like I said, I got. The Dexa scan is really good. It is the gold standard of scans. So it will tell you kind of the geography survey of your body, measures fat and muscle tone, and it's probably the most clear way of finding out really what your body is composed of. It was originally me trying to figure out what I thought my goal weight should be. I am still 25 pounds from that goal weight, but essentially it is just a scientific tool that does many things, but in this particular case for me, it is helping me determine, how am I doing with the actual piece. So since, let's just call it 7 months ago, I have lost 17 pounds of fat, and that's really good, even though it's not as much as it used to be. But I only lost 0.1 pounds of lean mass. And lean mass is what you want to keep. That's going to be the muscles, the organs. You got to keep your organs. And skeletal mass, so your bones. And one of the big fears with the GLP-1s in general is that people will lose weight so rapidly, they will lose muscle mass and then more importantly, bone mass. And I'm just not at an age where if you lose either of those two things, that's good, right? Because it's hard to get back. It's hard to get back muscle mass and it's hard to get back bone mass if you've lost it. And so, there's good people out there about GLP-1s, and we've all heard them, oh, we're just going to have this doctor was talking, they're having a debate about it, and he says, oh, we're going to have a generation, in 10 years of people who would have been overweight and had all these health problems, and now they're not. And he says, well, you know what I think we're going to have? We're going to have a bunch of people with bone density problems all over the place. And, what are we going to do about that? And, so you do want to keep on top of it and make sure you're doing the right thing. Now, I am not much of a calcium eater. I like cheese, so I get some calcium into cheese, which made my doctor happy. And he's not a big fan of taking calcium. He says it comes with its own set of problems. And I think that, I forgot what it does, but it can do like gallstones, maybe gallstones or something like that. So I'm not much, I eat cheese, but I not enough for the bone mass I have. So the first piece of good news in all of this is that my skeletal bone mass is exactly the same as it was, which is in the excellent range. So it is way up there. And she told me that the scale that they measure you on for all these is a 29-year-old. And I am far from 29 years old. So it's good that I have a great bone mass for a 29-year-old. So that's nice too. And like I said, losing fat and not muscle is also really good. The interesting thing is if you look at where I lost it, so it'll give you all your body parts and tell you where you have muscle and fat and how much is composed of it, is I lost a pound of muscle off of each leg. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Well, why didn't I lose more muscle mass on the total? Well, that's because I gained muscle everywhere else. So I am seeing a trainer. I do lift weights, body weight exercise and all that 3 times a week. And she's pretty hardcore. So she always is challenging. That's the nice thing about having a trainer is they're always like, hey, Jill, that looked a little too easy. Why don't you take this kettlebell instead of that kettlebell? Or, oh, you're kind of wincing on this side. That looks a little sore. Let's drop that. So she can actively maintain to make sure that I'm doing the proper weight And so that's been really good for me. I also have a home gym that I did a couple episode a couple months ago about. So have been working out, and I'm going to work out more and do more cardio. The DEXA scan, it just shows you, I guess, that your body is not in just one big bucket of things. There's not a bucket of fat and a bucket of muscle. There are different regions and different rate of changes in there. So I asked my trainer, I said, what do you think's behind me losing a pound of muscle in each leg? So that's a total of 2 pounds. And she says that she suspects that I lost muscle in my legs because it was used to carrying around an 80-pound more weighted woman. You know what I mean? So it gained muscle just by every time I walked up the stairs, every time I walked down the street. You get muscle from that. And she says it is very common for people who lose weight to lose weight, particularly in their legs, because their legs are no longer carrying the full amount of weight. But she said just the fact that you are gaining weight or gaining muscle in other places, that's great, and that's typical. So my arms gained a total of a pound of muscle. My trunk gained a little bit more than a pound of muscle, and that's why the weight loss total was 0.1. Everything else made up for it. And I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm not looking to be a bodybuilder, but all that activity and exercise has paid off to keeping this in the proper perspective, because again, the whole goal of this is to get healthy. In the end, I'm not looking to be a model, and so I'm just trying to get healthy and do everything that I need to do. And that's, like I said, that's really good. So that was kind of the end results of it. Like I said, people are worried because they feel like with the GLP-1s that sometimes if people get tired from this drug, there's something that is called, that's like spontaneous motion, these micro movements that you do all day long, going up the stairs, down the stairs. And if you're tired, you're just not moving as much. And that was my whole concern, and everything is going great on that. The other part of it is that I lost about 25% of excess visceral fat. So that's the other thing the DEXA scan will show. That's going to be the bad gut fat. It's liquidy. It's bad for your heart. It's the one fat, particularly for women. As much as we don't like our butt fat and our thigh fat, it is very stable, and it's not as impeding on our hearts as it is for men who tend to have more visceral fat. But I lost 25% of my excess visceral fat, and that's what I'm really trying to get away from. So before I had 1.5 pounds of visceral fat to lose, and now I have about 0.8 of a pound to lose in visceral fat. That helps with insulin sensitivity, inflammation that you have in your body, long-term disease risk. That's really, the visceral fat is the one that is the most dangerous to have. So it will tell you how much you've lost of each of it. The one question I asked her is, I said, well, now I have a lot of skin, and what does skin show up as? And we didn't know the answer to it, because it can't show up as muscle, and it doesn't probably show up as organs. I'm guessing it shows up as fat, but I have no idea. So I'm also hoping that while I'm having this pause in weight loss, that the skin will start to retreat just a little bit. I know another podcaster in this area. She is planning on getting skin surgery, which sounds expensive and really super scary. So I don't have that planned, but we're just going to see if it retracts on its own, and using a lot of moisturizer. I've been using the Aveeno body shower moisturizer. So you take a shower and then you spritz this on you, and it soaks in really easily, so it doesn't get all over your clothes. And so I've been using that, and that seems to be helping because you want your skin as elastic as possible. So for me, the story is less fat, less dangerous fat. The upper body is thriving in muscle, and my trainer, I told her, and she's going to start working on the lower leg muscles more often too. The second part of it that I took back away from this is that I did something. It was called a kinetic scan, and they had this video machine, and it has you do a bunch of functional tests, like do a squat, rotate your shoulders like this. And you notice that when I did this, this one tends to hinge just a little bit, and it looks for things like you sticking your butt out or you favoring one side over the other. And it gave me a whole bunch of data on that basically was really good. She said that she's been doing this for a while and she's only seen 3 people get into the green, and they were all much younger than I am. I was almost into the green, but not quite. And so I did have some movement issues, mostly this shoulder right here and a little bit in my right hip, which seems to get angry. So I handed that over to my trainer and said, here, fix this. So she's going to start working on fixing that. But essentially just helps you know where you're at. I think you weigh a lot for 50 years, and it's going to put a lot of pressure on, all your joints. And so I'm trying to make all of that a little bit better and, just make sure, like I said, that I'm healthy now that we're going that way. And then I also had another blood lab test this week, which I haven't seen the results of, but I assume it's going to be good. I have been waking up with low blood sugar, which means like 50, which is really too low. And the hilarious thing about it is that when I had high blood sugar, it was called the dawn syndrome, which means that, your body is chock full of sugar all the time. Your liver is full of sugar, which is really not good. And then you starve overnight while you're sleeping, and it all floods in on the morning because your body's like, oh no, Jill's starving to death. And your blood sugar spikes. And the fix for that is to eat a high protein mixed snack before bed. And I hate it. I just hated it because I'm not hungry before bed. And there I was wasting 200 of my precious calories to eat a meal I didn't want to have. Well, so now I have low blood sugar in the morning. So I kind of looked like, what do you do about low blood sugar in the morning? And it says, oh, have a high protein mixed snack before bed. And I'm like, I am never going to get away from this stupid snack. But I've been saving a few calories for that and eating a little something before bed, and that's fixed it up. So now I'm probably somewhere around 73 in the morning, which is a much better number and probably makes me feel a little bit better. But right now, I think that everything is going great, and I hope your all journeys in the audience is going great as well. This is an opportunity of a lifetime for sure. So now I am down to 10 milligrams. We're going to keep it this weight for a while. I meet with my doctor back probably in February again, and that will give us a chance to reflect on 10.0 and see if maybe I can go down to 7.5. But I think I mentioned this in the eye thing. I went and saw a retina specialist, and he was like, dude, you're doing great. Keep doing what you're doing. The damage to your optic nerve was your weight before, was your diabetes, and keep doing what you're doing. Never. And I said, well, I'm kind of thinking of trying to drop off of this drug. And he's like, why? Why would you do that? And I was like, yeah, I get that. So I decided that we're going to take an intermediate stance. We're going to go down to 10, see how I do. If I feel good, which I am right now, maybe we just stay there for a while. And then maybe we try 7.5 in a while, and we just keep, going down and seeing if it's better. Part of my madness, and just to give you a little bit about why I want to do that, is I don't want to go up in dose ever again. 12.5 was really bad for me, and 15, I imagine, is going to be even worse. And so my goal is, I still got 25 pounds to lose. And so I kind of thought, and to be honest with you, science does not know the answer to this. There's no research that says that this does this, that if I were able to titrate down back to 2.5 and stay there for a long period of time, for a while, could I then start titrating back up again and lose the last 20, 25 pounds? I'm going to, at some point I'm going to start trying on my own again to lose that weight, and then just to put like a dagger in this, this weight loss issue. I'm not trying to be a model, and I'm not trying to ever get super thin, but it still would probably be nice to lose that last 25 pounds. But I decided that, during this pause, there's things that I'm going to just try to get some perspective of, and maybe you're like this too, is try to put weight back into its proper perspective. I see all sorts of different YouTube people out there talking about Mounjaro, and there are people who are like, no, I'm not measuring myself on the scale because that's just body shaming me, and I get that. And we think about weight, all of us who have just dieted, for decades understand that the weight is a shaming thing. And you just realize, particularly after you get a Dexa scan, it's just talking about how much muscle, water, stored carbs you have, fat and bone density, inflammation's in there too. And so I think, getting a better, more practical look at weight. We've all been there, particularly if you're women, where all of a sudden one day you don't do anything wrong and you just gain 3 pounds. And you're like, and then 2 days later, boom, that 2 pounds goes away, and it's just a mystery of the body, which is really annoying. But I'm just trying to say that, this is just a rough estimate, a marker over time, and can I just stay within this tethered weight? So I sort of gave myself 5 pounds. I said 5 pounds, and let's just not go above that. And 5 pounds to less, let's not do anything to try to gain. Like I said, if I lost the weight right now, it'd be great, but I'm not going to try. I'm trying to rebuild my metabolism so that I can eat a normal amount of calories every day, which I sort of estimated is 1,500 calories a day, and be more energetic and not worry about weight for a little bit. It's not proof that I'm doing anything wrong. It's not proof of laziness or discipline problems or it's a failure. I think after all of us have been on this GLP-1, we realize there is a lot more that's going on with weight loss and why we have gained weight. That is more than just what you eat. I've been eating really well for the last 15 years, and the weight loss has crept to a halt without the GLP-1. And suddenly this is, I think how a normal person loses weight. They go on this kind of diet, and this is the kind of weight you would expect to lose. And somehow some system in us is just starting to break down. Like I said, either it's diabetes or it's old age or it's menopause or it's just being overweight for a long period of time, and the body just starts not dealing with weight anymore. And so for all those people who are out there going, just go on a diet. Dude, I've been on a diet for the last 50 years and it's not worked out the way that I hoped it would. So, now trying to put weight back into a proper perspective and, maintaining that. We get caught up in these terms like weight and the scale and the word dieting and the word, strength training or exercise. Exercise and dieting are verbs, they're what you do, they're not what you are. And you do that because you want to become a healthy person. So I think that's in the end of it. Oh, I did want to say one other really interesting piece of news is I have a Renpho scale, RENPHO, and it costs like $50. They have a brand new fancy one that I was hoping that it would go on sale during like the sales that we had last week. But my scale is just a scale you step on, and it does impedance where it sends like a tone through your body and then measures it coming back. That scale, like I said, $50 was pretty darn close to the Dexa scan. It was about 2 to 3 pounds different, and it measured, everything accurately, pretty accurately. So will I get another Dexa scan? I don't know. I think that I learned from the Dexa scan what I wanted to learn, which is, am I on the right track? Are things going right? And what I found out from the Dexa scan is yes. The answer is yes. And I think the Renpho scale is doing pretty darn good. This new scale is $199, and you grab a bar, and it supposedly does the same thing as the Dexa scan, where it tells you how much weight is in each arm and each leg, and it does a little bit more like the Dexa scan does. But, I don't know that I want to spend $186 for something that I already own that was $46 and is pretty darn accurate. So it's a Renpho body scale. It's just very simple, but it's pretty good at telling and splitting out exactly, what is fat and what is muscle and what is a skeletal bone mass. So if you don't want to get a Dexa scan, it's about a half-hour thing, but it still costs. If you go to the Dexa Fit place, they will give you an initial one for $99. If you get the coupon that they were giving out at like Cyber Monday, that was also $99. But you can get them done, during sales periods and figure out where you're at. So I don't think I'm going to get another one unless I drop that last 25 pounds, and maybe I will just out of curiosity, but I think I'm done with the Dexa scan. And I got enough information really right now. So I hope that helps. I wanted to give you a chance. Is there any questions or anything out there, or how's your journey going? Anything that you want to say about about what's happening with GLP-1s. I'll give you a moment to make any comments. This is where I need to play music. Do, 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 But if you don't want to, that's okay too. So again, if also too, if you have topics that you want me to talk about, please let me know. Part of it, I noticed that part of what I think is happening out there in the world of YouTube and all these Monjero channels is that people get affiliate sponsorship from Orderly and some of these companies, and they depend on their viewership to keep them going in GLP-1s. And right now, I'm just not selling anything. I'm not sponsoring anything. I know I don't want to say lucky. I got lucky that I got diabetic diagnosis, and so I do get this as part of medication that is part of insurance. We'll find out at the new year. Supposedly my insurance is cutting off people or not giving it to people who are under 40 BMI, or I think 40 BMI, and I'm at 30, so I'm well beyond it. So there is a possibility that they will try to cut me off. But my doctor doesn't think that's going to happen. But, I know the channels get kind of sad because people get very desperate when they go on maintenance to keep their viewers going because they're getting the affiliate, which is paying for their GLP-1. And so I want to make sure that this is still useful for you, that, that these topics are useful for you. It's going to be interesting for a while. Do I keep the weight off or do I maintain the weight loss that I had? But, like I said, I don't want the channel to get boring for you. So, I'm a tech person. I'm a nerd, and so I had some thoughts about doing some, like, how do you use the Apple Health Kit, to benefit you? How can you use various apps to help benefit you? Maybe a tour of My Net Diary or something like that. And so I was a software trainer for a decade, and so making videos about how to use technical tools. If that's interesting to you or there's a topic that's interesting to you, let me know. Well, anyway, I don't want to talk too long. I appreciate you all being out there. I hope your journey is going well, and that, like I said, this is a real opportunity of a lifetime. So I appreciate you being out there. Have a great day, and let me know if there's any topics that you would like me to cover or, something that you were always very curious about. Thanks so much, and have a great day.